Good morning and a blessed day, senior high learners. I'm Mrs. Liria D. Garland from Paso de Blas Senior High School, your Valenzuela FB live streaming teacher for today. Welcome to the Week 4 segment of Valenzuela Live with the subject Contemporary Philippine Arts from the Region. If you're ready, please send me the heart react before we proceed. And a big thanks for that. And for today's topic, we will unleash the various art forms in the Philippines crafted by your own great Filipino artists, thus recognizing and honoring their role, influences, and their contribution to contemporary arts. And for this lesson's essential learning competencies, for the content standards, you are expected to demonstrate an understanding of significant roles of artists from the regions. And for your performance standards, creates avenues to advocate the arts from the different regions. And for the most essential learning competencies, explains Filipino artists' role and identify their contribution to contemporary arts. Let's start today with an activity. We call this activity Picture Perfect. For the directions, which of the illustration below does not belong to each category of art? Choose the letter of your answer and type it in the comment box. You got 5 seconds to key in your answer. Let us begin. Number 1 is for literary arts. Which image does not belong to this art form? Is it A, B, or C? If your answer is letter C, that is correct. The first two images, A and B, are examples of literary arts. These are great literary pieces produced by profound Filipino writers Francisco Arceliana and Nick Joaquin. Literary arts are those presented in the written form and intended to be read. It is a body of works that show the best that has been thought and said, or works that signify the highest achievements of a particular culture. Next, number 2. Number 2 is the category for audiovisual art. In number 2, which do you think does not belong to a category of audiovisual arts? You are correct if your answer is letter B. Audiovisual art can be enjoyed by the senses of hearing and sight. It is also called performing arts. Next, number 3. For the visual art category, which of the pictures does not belong in this art form? Got 5 seconds. Image A is the correct answer, since this is an example of performance art. Visual arts, these are the artworks that appeal to the visual sense and typically exist in permanent form. They are known as space arts because they occupy space in making and displaying them. Examples of visual arts, these are painting, sculpture, and photography. Number 4. Which of the following does not belong to the category of graphic arts? If your answer is letter C, you are correct. When we speak of graphic arts, these are visual arts that have length and width. They are also called two-dimensional arts. They are described as flat arts because they are seen on flat surfaces. Number 5. Which of the illustrations given does not belong to the category of plastic arts? If your answer is image B, you are correct. Plastic arts are those visual arts that have length, width, and volume. They are called three-dimensional arts. Congratulations, learners! You are now ready to move on to the next lesson. Are you familiar with these logos? The logo is the alab ng haraya, which symbolizes the wellspring of Filipino art and culture. This logo represents the National Commissions for Culture and the Arts, which is the overall policy-making body, coordinating and grants-giving agency for the preservation, development, and promotion of Philippine arts and culture, and tasked to administer the National Endowment Fund for Culture and the Arts. While the CCP, or the Cultural Center of the Philippines, has been a home producing and presenting music, dance, theater, visual arts, literary, cinematic, and design events from the Philippines and all over the world. The Republic of the Philippines, through the National Commission for Culture and the Arts and the Cultural Center of the Philippines, established the Order of the National Artist Award or the Ordenang Pambansang Alagad ng Sining on April 27, 1972 under Proclamation Number 1001. This award gives honor to the Filipino artists with an outstanding share in preserving the cultural heritage and cultural identity of the country using their valuable efforts and contribution to the Philippine arts. These are visual arts, dance, music, architecture, design, and allied arts, broadcast and film, theater, and literature. The Order of National Artists aims to recognize Filipino artists who have made significant contributions to the cultural heritage of the country, Filipino artistic accomplishment at its highest level, and to promote creative expression as significant to the development of national culture identity, and Filipino artists who have dedicated their lives to their works to forge new paths and directions for future generations of Filipino artists. While the Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan Awards or GAMABA is an award that acknowledges folk and indigenous artists who despite modern times remain true to their traditions. It is administered by the National Commission for Culture and the Arts through Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan Committee. GAMABA began as a project of the Philippine Rotary Club Makati, Ayala. Then in 1992, it was adopted by the government and institutionalized through Republic Act No. 7335. This award aims to support and motivate these artists to preserve their artistic heritage for the present and future generations. Now, let us get to know more the national artists. For category of architecture and allied arts, we have Juan F. Nakpil. Juan F. Nakpil is a national artist in 1973. He is a pioneer and innovator in Philippine architecture. His greatest contribution is espousing architecture reflective of Philippine traditions and culture. He has integrated strength, function, and beauty in the buildings that are country's heritage today. He designed the 1937 International Eucharistic Congress altar and rebuilt and enlarged the Quiapo Church in 1930, adding a dome and a second belfry to the original design. Next is Pablo S. Antonio. Pablo S. Antonio became a national artist in 1976. He pioneered modern Philippine architecture. His basic design is grounded on simplicity, with no clutter, clean, smooth lines, and curves are made integral to the structure. Every line must have a meaning, a purpose. For him, function comes first before elegance or form. An Antonio's structure is the maximum use of natural light and crosses ventilation. He believes that buildings must be progressive, simple in design, but dignified. Next on the list, we have Leandro Vilocsin. Leandro Vilocsin became national artist in 1990. He has reshaped the urban landscape with a distinctive architecture reflective of Philippine art and culture. He believes that the true Philippine architecture is the product of two great streams of culture, the Oriental and the Occidental. His mastery of space and scale with themes of floating volume, the duality of light and heavy, buoyant and massive. One of Manila's notable landmarks is the CCP complex. It holds the Cultural Center of the Philippines, Folk Arts Theater, Philippine International Convention Center, Philippine Center for International Trade and Exhibition, or the PhilSite, and the Sofitel Philippine Plaza, all designed by Leandro Locsin, making it truly a Locsin complex. Next, we have Ildefonso P. Santos Jr. Ildefonso P. Santos Jr. became a national artist in 2006. He distinguished himself by pioneering the practice of landscape architecture. He produced exemplary and engaging work with a wide range of outdoor settings that have enhanced contemporary Filipino life. He made his first mark when he introduced a new concept of outdoor shopping with landscape, walks, fountains, and sculptures as accents. Then let's move to visual arts. Visual arts, the first on the list, we have Carlos Botong Francisco single-handedly revived the forgotten art of mural painting. He turned fragments of the historic past into vivid records of the legendary courage of the ancestors of his race. Bottom's unerring eye for composition, the lush tropical sense of color, and abiding faith in the folk values typified by the townspeople of Angono Rizal became the hallmark of his art. Another one in painting, who became national artist in 1972, and the country had its first national artist in Fernando C. Amarsolo. He developed the backlighting technique that became his trademark, where figures, a cluster of leaves, spill of hair, the swell of breast are seen aglow on canvas. His years of creative activity have defined and perpetuated a distinct element of the nation's artistic and cultural heritage. And for sculpture, in 1973, Guillermo Estrella Tolentino. He is a product of the revival period in the Philippine sculptural art. The UP Oblation, his obra, became the symbol of freedom and offering of one's dignity, patriotism, and service. Then, Bonifacio Monument in Caloocan stands as an enduring symbol of the Filipinos' cry for freedom. In 1976, we have Napoleon B. Abueva. Napoleon B. Abueva is the father of modern Philippine sculpture, who has helped shape the local sculpture scene, utilizing almost all kinds of materials. Some of his great works can be seen in different museums here and abroad, such as the sculpture at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Okay, next, in 1981, in the category of painting, Vicente Manansala became a national artist, and that is for pioneering Cubism in the Philippines. His paintings are described as visions of reality teetering on the edge of abstraction. Manansala professes a preference for Cézanne and Picasso, whom he says has achieved a balance of skill and artistry. Manansala's work include a cluster of Nipa Hut, San Francisco del Monte, Banaklaot, I Believe in God, Market Vendors, Madonna of the Slums, Still Life with Green Guitar, Via Crucis, Weir, and Nude. Next, Cesar Legaspi. Cesar Legaspi became a national artist in 1990 under visual arts. He is remembered for his singular achievement of refining Cubism in the Philippine context. His distinctive style and daring themes contributed significantly to the advent and eventual acceptance of modern art in the Philippines. Legaspi made use of the geometric fragmentation technique, weaving social comment and juxtaposing the mythical and modern into his overlapping interacting forms with disturbing power and intensity. Some of his works, if not most, depicts the anguish and the dehumanization of beggars and laborers in the city. Next, we have Hernando R. Ocampo. Hernando R. Ocampo became the national artist in 1991. He was best known for his abstract paintings. His works signify an understanding and awareness of the harsh social realities in the country immediately after the Second World War and contributed significantly to the rise of the nationalist spirit in the post-war era. Ocampo's masterpiece Genesis served as the basis of the curtain design of the Cultural Center of the Philippines main theater. Still under visual arts, in 1997, we have our national artist by the name of Arturo R. Luz. He created masterpieces that exemplify an ideal of sublime austerity and expression and form that elevated Filipino aesthetic vision to the new heights of sophisticated simplicity. Next, still under visual arts, in 2003, Jose T. Hoya became the national artist. He distinguished himself by creating an authentic Filipino abstract idiom that transcended foreign influences. Most of Hoya's paintings of harmonious colors were inspired by Philippine landscapes such as green rice paddies and golden fields of harvest. His use of rice paper in collages placed value on transparency, a common characteristic of folk art. His important mandala series was also drawn from Asian aesthetic forms and concepts. He espoused the value of kinetic energy and spontaneity in painting, which became significant artistic values in Philippine art. Next on the list, we have Benedicto R. Cabrera, who became national artist in 2006. He upheld the primacy of drawing over the decorative color. His solitary figures of scavengers emerging from a dark landscape were piercing stabs at the social conscience of a people long inured to poverty and dereliction. His paintings are melancholic symbols of dislocation, despair, and isolation, the personification of human dignity threatened by life circumstances. The Bencab Museum in Baguio, which he created, aims to make the arts more accessible with the country also as means of promoting the conservation and protection of the environment. Next to discuss are the great contributions of Filipino artists in the field of literature, music, dance, and design. Let's all watch, listen, and learn from this video presentation. National artists in the field of literature, music, dance, and design. Let's start with Nick Joaquin, National Artist for Literature in 1976. Nick Joaquin was a distinguished Filipino writer in English, writing so variedly and distinctly written about many aspects of the Filipino. His significance in Philippine literature involves his exploration of the Philippine colonial past under Spain and his probing into the psychology of social changes as seen by the young. Among his voluminous works are The Woman Who Had Two Navels, a portrait of the artistus Filipino, Manila by Manila, A History for the Young, Rizal in Saga, Almanac for Manileños, Cave, and Shadows. Francisco Arceliana, National Artist in Literature in 1990, pioneered the development of the short story as a lyrical prose poetic form. For Arceliana, the pride of fiction is that it is able to render truth that is able to present reality. He has kept alive the experimental tradition in fiction and has been most daring in exploring new literary forms to express the sensibility of the Filipino people. Still on literature, 2001 national artist F. Chanel Jose. His writings the consistent espousal of the aspirations of the Filipino for national sovereignty and social justice. His works written in English have been translated into various languages. Jose received numerous awards for his work. The Pretenders is his most popular novel, which is the story of one man's alienation from his poor background and the decadence of his wife's wealthy family. Next is Alejandro Roses, national artist still in literature in 2003. Alejandro Roses has always focused on the neglected aspects of the Filipino cultural heritage. He brought to public attention the aesthetics of the country's fiestas. He was instrumental in popularizing several local fiestas, notably Moriones and Ati-Atihan. Something to Crow About is a collection of Roses short stories. The book has been recently brought to life by a critically acclaimed play of the same title. The stage version of Something to Crow About is the first Filipino zarzuela in English. National Artist in Literature in 2006, Bienvenido Lumbera. He introduced to Tagalog literature what is now known as bagay poetry, a landmark aesthetic tendency that has helped to change the vernacular poetic tradition. He pioneered the creative fusion of fine arts and popular imagination. As a scholar, his major books include the following: Tagalog Poetry, 1570 to 1898, Tradition and Influences in its Development, Philippine Literature, A History and Anthology, Revaluation, Essay on Philippine Literature, Writing the Nation, and Pag-akda ng Bansa. In the category of Design, National Artist in 2006, Ramon Valera. Ramon Valera is said to have given the country its visual icon to the world via the terno. He unified the components of the barot saya into a single dress with exaggerated bell sleeves cinched at the waist, gracing the ankle, and zip up at the back. And for dance, we have Francisca Reyes Aquino became the national artist in 1973. She works extensively on her research on folk dances, on the unrecorded forms of local celebration, ritual, and sport. Another great artist in dance, in 2006, national artist Ramon Obusan. Ramon Obusan had effected cultural and diplomatic exchanges using the multifarious aspects and dimensions of the art of dance. Another in music, 1973, national artist Antonio J. Molina. He was credited for introducing such innovations as the whole tone scale, pentatonic scale, exuberance of dominant nines and 11 chords, and linear counterpoints. Then in 1976, still in music, national artist Jovita Fuentes. She broke into Broadway, portrayed Shosho San in Giacomo Puccini's Madame Butterfly at Italy's Teatro Municipal de Piacenza. Her performance has been hailed as the most sublime interpretation of the part. This is all the more significant because it happened at a time when the Philippines and its people were scarcely heard of in Europe. Next national artist in music, 1991, Lucio Di San Pedro. His music evokes the folk elements of the Filipino heritage. His civic commitment and work with town bands have significantly contributed to the development of a civic culture among Filipino communities and opened a creative outlet for young Filipinos. Lastly, music and literature national artist in 1997, Levi Celerio. Levi Celerio effortlessly translated, wrote a new lyrics to traditional melodies. He made it to the Guinness Book of World Records as the only person able to make music using just a leaf, songs in an idiom that has proven to appeal to all social classes. After listening to the video, this is going to be your activity. So please pay attention, listen carefully, and better understand the instructions, all right? Okay, so this is your activity. You're going to create a 10 to 15 photo journal, scrapbook that integrates or includes all of your learning with regards to the contribution of national artists in literature, dance, fashion, design, and music. And then conceptualize your own photo journal, scrapbook style. You may take pictures, print and paste them on your journal, or you may cut out pictures from magazines. And then you need to submit and present your photo journal scrapbook output online to your teacher on your next meeting. The scoring rubric is to be provided by your contemporary Philippine arts from the region teacher. Okay. Well, I believe everyone wants to see and hear more about our local artists' endeavor. See this information taken from the Manila Times. 7 exemplary individuals who were conferred the National Artist Awards by President Rodrigo Duterte in Malacanang in 2018 were given a tribute at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Visual artist Laura Larry Alcala, theater advocate Amelia La Peña Bonifacio, music master Raymond Ryan Cayabyab, filmmaker Kidlat Tahimik, architect Francisco Manyosa, literary writers Resil Mahares and Ramon Muzones were declared national artists, joining the League of Filipino Artists who have received the highest recognition bestowed by the nation. Let's start with Larry Alcala. Larry Alcala is a well-known illustrator and editorial cartoonist. His works not only appeared in comics and national publications, but also in television commercials and advertising materials. Then we have Amelia La Peña Bonifacio. She's an award-winning novelist, playwright, set designer, and puppeteer, credited with bringing Filipino stories to life through puppetry. Then we have Ryan Cayabyab, Mr. C. He is a well-known contemporary musician, composer, and conductor. He is famous for composing and performing Kay Ganda ng Ating Musika. His compositions reflect a perspective of music that extols the exuberance of life and human happiness, thus capturing the very essence of our Filipino soul. Next is Kidlat Tahimik. So Kidlat Tahimik is the father of Philippine independent cinema. He won the International Film Critics Prize in 1997. He has since made 9 other films and several more awards. Then we have Francisco T. Manyosa. He is known for his Filipino aesthetic architectural design. A few of his works are the Coconut Palace, Cultural Center of the Philippines, and San Miguel Headquarters, where he drew inspiration from Banawe rice terraces. Next, Resil Mahares. Resil Mahares is a Cebuano historian and literary critic who has received 6 Philippine National Book Award. Finally, we have Ramon Muzones. Ramon Muzones is a novelist and historian widely celebrated for his contribution to the Ilonggo literature. So at this point, let us try to find out what are your learnings so far. Okay, go on. Let's have an activity. We call this Guess Who. So for the directions, name the national artist behind the significant contributions. You are going to type your answer in the chat box. 5 seconds to give your answer. Okay, let's move on with number 1. He is a well-known illustrator and editorial cartoonist. His most enduring comic strip was Kalabog and Bosyo that first appeared on the pages of Filipino comics in 1947. It eventually became the longest-running cartoon series created by a Filipino. Who is this national artist? So the correct answer, of course, none other than Mr. Larry Alcala. Number 2. She's a national artist for dance in 1973. Her books include the following: Philippine National Dances, Gymnastics for Girls, Fundamental Dance Steps and Music, Foreign Folk Dance, Dances for All Occasions, Playground Demonstrations, and Philippine Folk Dances. Francisco de los Reyes, our national artist for dance. He was proclaimed a National Artist of the Philippines for Architecture in 1990 by President Corazon Z. Aquino, and a Filipino architect, artist, and interior designer, known for his use of concrete floating volume and simplistic design in his various projects. It's Leandro Locsin. Number 4. He was a Filipino writer and a journalist best known for his short stories and novels in the English language. He also wrote using the pen name Quijano de Manila. He was conferred the rank and title of National Artist of the Philippines for literature? The answer is Nick Joaquin. Number 5. He unified the components of the barot saya into a single dress with exaggerated bell sleeves, cinched at the waist, gracing the ankle, and zip up at the back. Who is this national artist? The answer is Ramon Valera. At this point, we will discuss the gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan awardees. Let's start with Darhata Sawabi. Darhata Sawabi is a tausug weaver of Pisyabit, the traditional cloth tapestry worn as a head cover. Next, we have Hadja Amina Api. Hadja Amina Api is recognized as a master mat weaver among the Sama indigenous community for her unique designs, straightness of her edging, or that what they call tabig, and fineness of her sasa and kima-kima. Then we have Langdulay. Langdulay is a Tiboli traditional weaver of tinalak or Tiboli cloth made of colorful abaca fabrics. Then we have Salintamonon. Salintamonon is a taga-Banwa, Bagobo traditional weaver of distinct abaca fabrics called inabal. Moving on, let's move to the category of arts and literature. Let's start with Alonso Saclag. Alonso Saclag is a Kalinga master of dance and the performing arts who mastered not only the Kalinga musical instruments but also the dance patterns and movements associated with his people's rituals. Next is Federico Caballero. He is a Sulod Bukidnon epic chanter from Kalinog, Iloilo, who ceaselessly works for the documentation of the oral literature, particularly the epics of his people. Then we have Uwang Ahadas. Uwang Ahadas is a Yakan musician who is a master of the kwintangan, kayo, and tuntungan instruments. Ginaw Bilog is a Manunuo Mangyan poet who is considered as a master of the ambahan poetry. Then we have Masino Intaray. Masino Intaray is a prolific and preeminent epic chanter and storyteller recognized for his outstanding mastery of various traditional musical instruments of the Palawan people such as basal, kulilay, and bagit. Also, we have Samaon Sulaiman. Samaon Sulaiman is an acclaimed Kutyapi master and teacher of this instrument and is also proficient in kulintang, agong, gandingan, palendag, and tambul. Lastly, for plastic arts category, we have Eduardo Mutuk. Eduardo Mutuk is an artist from Apalit, Pampanga who has dedicated his life to creating religious and secular art in silver, bronze, and wood. Okay, so after listening to those information, this is going to be your activity. You are now required to make a creative product or output very much related to all this information. You're going to research further using the internet how your chosen Gamaba awardees craft looks like or sound as a finished product. If you do not have internet access, look for patterns, preferably ethnic, from magazines and cut out pictures of Filipino ethnic musical instruments and traditional Filipino lyrics, songs, and epics. And then on a short bond paper, make a collage in the form of a standing human being and place each of their finished products in any body part that you like. Of course, with significance and meaning. Then after that, the theme that you're going to be using is many local art forms standing as one nation. Write at least 3 paragraphs as an explanation of your creative output. Again, the scoring rubric will be provided by your contemporary Philippine arts from the region teacher. Okay, at this point, truly it makes us proud recognizing the valuable contribution of our great national artists and Gamaba awardees. Indeed, their skills have reached a high level of technical and artistic excellence and who are tasked to pass it on to the present generation. Their exemplary talent and craftsmanship, coupled with their dedication to their work, inspire us to live more, be proud, and promote our rich cultural heritage. Well, as Filipinos, they made us realize to pay more attention and appreciation to our Filipino life. They provide us with a vision of ourselves and of our nation as being truthful Filipino. And in return, we should by heart remain true to ourselves as these artists remain truthful to their art. Once again, this is Ma'am Rio D. Gurlan, your contemporary Philippine arts from the region teacher, telling you, be proud, be Filipino for the glory of our nation. Bye!